No. Oh, that, I always think that's yours. You stole it. Well, in another universe, you could have written it. It's really, you really do it well. Thank you so much. My messages this month are based, of course, on the science of mind, which is all about the creative process in the individual. And there are actually books called The Creative Process in the Individual, but I'm also using this book that is called Creative Confidence, and it's by Tom Kelly and David Kelly. David Kelly is a professor at Stanford, and he started to realize that as disciplines got narrow and narrower, people knew more and more and more, but less and less and less, right? They knew more and more about one tiny subject. And he said, so they're missing the broadness. And so he had an idea of putting disciplines together. So the physicists and the humanities and the chemists and all of them would be together discussing possibilities of how they could look at things in another way. And I want to show you a little clip. He has an 11-minute video on YouTube. You can look him up, David Kelly, Creativity, Creative Confidence. And we're going to just watch a little bit of this because there's an amazing thing that he shows. So are you ready? Good. Is the sound team ready? Hey.
Doug Dietz is a technical person. He designs medical imaging equipment, large medical imaging equipment. He's worked for GE and he's had a fantastic career, but at one point he had a moment of crisis. He was in the hospital looking at one of his MRI machines in use when he saw a young family and his little girl. And that little girl was crying and was terrified. And Doug was really disappointed to learn that nearly 80% of the pediatric patients in this hospital had to be sedated in order to deal with this MRI machine, right? And this was really disappointing to Doug because before this time, he was proud of what he did. You know, he was saving lives with this machine, but it really hurt him to see the fear that this machine caused in kids. About that time, he was at the D School at Stanford taking classes. He was learning about our process, about design thinking, about empathy, about iterative prototyping. And he would take this new knowledge and do something quite extraordinary. He would redesign the entire experience of being scanned. And this is what he came up with. He turned it into an adventure for the kids. He painted the walls and he painted the machine and he got the operators retrained by people who know kids, like, you know, children's museum people. And now, so when the kid comes, it's an experience. And they talk to him about the noise and the movement of the ship. And when they come, they say, okay, you're going to go into the pirate ship, but be very still because we don't want the pirates to find you. Right? And the results were super dramatic. Right? So from something like 80% of the kids needing to be sedated to something like 10% of the kids needing to be sedated. And the hospital and GE were happy too because you didn't have to call the anesthesiologist all the time, they could put more kids through the machine in a day. So the quantitative results were great. But Doug's results that he cared about were much more qualitative. He was with one of the mothers waiting for her child to come out of the scan. And when the little girl came out of her scan, she ran up to her mother and said, "Mommy, can we come back tomorrow?" Right? And so I've heard Doug tell the story many times of his personal transformation and the breakthrough design that happened from it. But I've never really seen him tell the story of the little girl without a tear in his eye. Doug's story takes place in a hospital. I know a thing or two about hospitals.
Thank you. Let's acknowledge Doug Dietz and imagine he had the MRI that he had created had saved maybe millions of lives. But what meant something to him was that all these children were afraid. And so he changed it. Can you imagine how great that is? But here's the thing, Doug Dietz was like most people when he first went into the program, if asked if he was creative, he said, no, not me. Now, we know better than that because we know that the creative process is going through all of us. But this morning, I'd like you to consider where the title is Flip the Creative Process. So I'd like you to consider flipping whatever it is, wherever in your life you're saying can't, wherever in your life you're saying, well, that's just the way it is, or I'm that way, or life's that way, to be able to use what we know, the creative process, to flip it. If he can flip the fear of an MRI experience for children to something they want to go back and do again the next day, that's pretty incredible. The same mind that is in him is in each one of us. It's God's mind. It's the mind of the infinite. Before I've experienced so many. I want to talk about some of the places I've seen this creative confidence this week. I'll start first of all with Monday, because Monday was May 1st. And Reverend Patty, for many years, I don't know, I think for as long as I've known her, and probably for 20 years beyond that, has delivered flowers to her neighbors on May Day. She delivered, with Reverend Karen's help, 36 flowers on May Day to the people, to spread joy and to make people realize that they're connected. There's a neighbor here that cares about them and is giving them something of beauty and of value. So when I was doing my praying with Faith Strong that morning, I told her about Patty, and she was so impressed. She decided she was going to do something similar. And so she phoned up her favorite florist and got flowers for the whole Monarch Beach, 200 homes. She said, the best part for me was I knew that at the same time, people would be opening their doors and smiling about the same thing. And we, the neighbors in this neighborhood, could know that we're connected. That, every one of us could do something like that. And it doesn't have to be May 1st. It doesn't have to be May 1st. So anyway, then on Friday night, move ahead to Friday night, we went down to see Kimberly in her play, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. I got the title right that time. And Kimberly's part was, she just nailed this part. She played it so well, and everyone else nailed their parts. That's creative confidence. To take on a role of someone else and then be that person for a couple of hours so convincingly. But not only that, the way, if you have an opportunity, I encourage you to go down to Vista to see this play. It's so cleverly produced and directed that there's both the present, so the present being 1975 and the past being 1955, are on stage at the same time. It's just so clever. And it's an amazing, it's a really, I think, a really great story, because you can ponder all of the changes in the people and all of the ways they were willing or weren't willing to tell the truth about who they were and about their pain and their joy. Really I got many great messages from it. And I don't want to say more than that because I would spoil it. And then yesterday, I went to see the San Clemente Choral Society, who had a concert at the Presbyterian Church. And Rita McPhail was one of the stars of that. She had several solos. But the one I want to point out is in Blue Skies. She did this jazz scat. She just stepped into it like creative confidence. It was like, wow, there's something really powerful and energetic happening through Rita as the music. And it was just great. I thought, gosh, I've got all of this material for my message. Isn't that wonderful? So thank you, Rita. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Kimberly. And she's not here this morning, but she won't be here for the next 3 Sundays because she's going to be busy in this place. She has to be down there. Call is, I think she said she has to leave here by 10:30. So, creative confidence and the science of mind. Ernest Holmes says, he says everything, well, Mary Morrissey, quoting all of her teachers, would say it this way: everything is created twice. Then she'd say, you know this. And it's true. Everything is created twice. First, the thought, first, the idea, and then the thing. And that is whether it's a thing or an experience, a relationship, everything is created twice. Ernest Holmes says, what we pay attention to is going to expand in our lives. And he says the trick is to pay attention to your intention. Pay attention to your intention. Quit paying attention to what you don't want. Use your will to bring your attention back to what you do want, to the joy that you want, to the love that you want, to the prosperity that you want, to the job that you want, to the health that you want. Stop using that wonderful gift of divine mind in an unhealthy minded way, or just in a, let's call it a spade, a stupid way. A stupid way. Quit being stupid about how you're using your mind. Right? I said it. I said the bad word. Good for you, Darylyn. So there's an old story that I think illustrates the foundation of this. And it's a true story. In the 13th or 14th century in Thailand, and you've seen this, in Thailand, there was a huge Buddha, and Thailand was being invaded. So the monks they plastered it over with stucco, and then they put little bits of glass over it. It still looked really beautiful, but it was a pure gold Buddha. So 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. In 1955, they were moving it from one location to another, and it fell, and part of the stucco got chipped off, and they noticed there's something underneath it, something shiny. It was gold. And so they did the work of taking off all that stucco and revealing this golden Buddha. And they not only discovered this Buddha was pure gold, but the head part of the Buddha was 99.9% pure, and the rest was less. The worth of it in dollars, approximately $250 million. Of course, they wouldn't care, because what's important to them is that this symbol of their beliefs is restored. But why I say that has something to do with us. Here's what we do, and we've all done it to some extent. We come across life and we make up decisions about ourselves. Someone said this morning that we're meaning-making people, and yes, we are. We make meaning, and sometimes that meaning might as well be hogwash, because it's not the truth in any shape or form. But we make meaning, and then we decide that's true. That's like slapping that stucco over the gold within us. That's like covering up the greatest gifts we have. How you do that is, how you cover it up is when you put something negative after the holy words, I am. When you put something that is not, couldn't be the truth of spirit or God after the holy words, I am, you're slapping more stucco, more mud onto the gold being that you are, the golden being, the precious being, the truth of you. Because indeed, what we really are is this perfect, creative something with infinite possibilities. Infinite possibilities. Today is a great day to change your minds and start either dissolving that plaster, because here's what I know. When you shine the light of truth on that plastered image, you don't have to chip away. It's going to dissolve. It's going to just wash away because the truth of you is far greater than any lies you've ever told yourself. So the creative process in the individual for us is the creative process is flipping that switch to say, yes, I can. Yes, I am. Yes, I will. Yes, I have. Put your attention on your intention. Put your attention on your intention. So what gets in the way of that, of course, is when we get some sort of proof of, see, I was right all along. For those of you, how many of you have ways that you express your creativity, that you know you're expressing creativity? Hands up. So you're so good. You're so good. Okay. So how many of those things would you say is an artistic expression? Hands up. Yeah. Okay. So every single one of us could have our hands up. Because if we're using divine mind to have a better life, to help other people have a better life, to live out loud, to be bold, to be free, and to move ahead, even when we're not certain of where that ahead is taking us, then we are all creative beings and are using it in an artistic way. So thank you for the encouragement last week about practicing piano. I have been sitting at the piano at least once a day, which has been good. I'm not, of course, I'm a creative being. So, yeah, why would I think not? Okay. So what stops us? I think we get discouraged. I think we get in agreement with our habits instead of with our possibilities. And we judge. We judge ourselves. So as I said last week, just stop it. Just stop it. And then support others to stop it. And you don't do that by telling someone, don't think that way. You do that by acknowledging the God presence in everyone just the way they are and just the way they are not. You do that by being a safe place for people to be themselves. What you're doing is actually holding up the mirror for them. The song I chose for meditation this morning is, there is only one of us. In your eyes, it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. You, every single one of you, are my reflection. We're all each other's reflection. And when we know who we are, that's such a great reflection. It is such a good thing. The poet Rumi, one of my favorite little poems of his is simply this: come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come, come. I love this because it reminds us I've heard people say this, and I know it's true. I try to keep positive. I try to keep my mind focused on what I do want, and I slip into old habits. Come, come, whoever you are, worshiper, wanderer, lover of leaving. Stop it. That isn't Ruby, that's Heather. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, come, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again. Come, come. That's the call of the infinite to each one of us. Come back, come here, come into your own. Every single one of us knows in our own heart of hearts what will make our hearts sing, what we do want. Do it. Do it. Yeah. The creative process is very simple. It's when we have a conscious thought and we take that conscious thought and consciously plant it into subjective mind, it becomes form. It becomes form. When we have a conscious thought that is filled with passion, it's filled with love or conviction, as Ernest Holmes says, when we're convinced that this is a true thought, it comes into manifestation faster. It's both in the universal and the individual, the very same process. Simple. And many of us spend time in worry or fear. Instead of planting seeds for our good and our highest good and our greatest good and our greatest next to be, we plant seeds that are terrifying. We're our own, I'm thinking about that this morning, how we often terrorize our own being by setting up this someone within us that's judging. It's time to truly be your own best friend and do what your heart is calling you to do so that love can have its way through you, so that you can be the bright light of the golden Buddha that you were created to be. You are the ones, and the time is now, and so it is. Thank you. And we're going to pray. Diane's going to take us in with a beautiful something new.
Everywhere I am is holy ground, for I walk in God. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Everywhere I am is holy ground, and I live in love. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of the pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Gentle, easy.
And indeed, it is true. Where we stand, where we sit, where we are is holy ground. For there is only God, only divine mind, spirit. And it is right where we are, not just around us, not just in us, but as us, as the truth that we are, as the presence that we are, as the wholeness that we are. And so in this moment, as I unify with it, with that substance, with that beloved presence, I speak my word for each one here, and I do it in the first person. If there's something you don't like, just let it go and take the things that fit for you. I speak this word for health and vitality and energy and aliveness, that spirit through me knows exactly how to create a body that is fit and healthy, vitally alive, and ageless and perfect in every way. That is beauty itself, that is the strength and flexibility of divine mind. I know that everything I do comes from an awareness of who I am and what I am. And so I look after this body temple in a greater way than ever before. In a greater way, I acknowledge and am in great awe of this presence that I am, and that is clothing itself as me, as this body. And furthermore, I speak this work for absolute perfect expression of creativity. And I know that that creativity flows through each one of us as the golden Buddha, as the oneness with divine mind idea that blesses everything in our lives, from our hobbies to our friendships, to our relationships, to our work. It's a blessing because of the I am that I am, that creativity that is infinite in potential, the new ideas that want to burst forth through each one of us, just simply by saying, yes, God, yes, Spirit, I am willing. Make me the vessel. I'll do it. I'll give from it. And furthermore, I know that this word is for the connection among all people, between people, the connection that is love calling to love and love saying, yes, my beloved, the connection that is greater than the conscious mind can even contemplate whatsoever, and yet it must be activated through a conscious idea, conscious awareness of yes. Yes, I'm listening to love's call, and therefore I am loving and lovable and lovely. And I speak this word for greater and greater awareness of abundance, a consciousness of abundance that includes every good thing imaginable, all joy, all friendship, right work, right money. And I know that our money, my money, and everyone's money is blessed and is a blessing, for it's simply God in circulation. And so it goes forth to do good work. I know for every person who is hurting this morning, who is discouraged, whether they're here in person or not, that anyone that's discouraged or has concerns or worries, I know that the presence of God within lifts them up, frees them from any kind of concern, and shows them the comfort of God's love and the way. I know for those that are grieving, this too shall pass. For we live in a constantly changing universe of good and greater good. For all of this and so much more, for every minister, every rabbi, every holy person, every imam, everywhere that's doing the work of the divine, I say thank you. Thank you for giving of yourselves. And so I simply then place this word in God's hands, metaphorically, in God's law. God has it, so I let go, I let God. So with so much joy and gratitude, and help me anchor it by saying with me, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Heather. And now
So
please
welcome.
welcome back Alan